Hey guys, I just wanted to give my off-the-cuff reactions to the Xbox show, which happened yesterday at the time I'm recording this. I wasn't planning on doing this, but a few people have suggested it, and I thought, why not? I do have other videos in the works that are more what you expect from this channel as far as being more carefully edited and planned on and so on. But I thought I would take a break from that so I could get my thoughts out there on this stuff while it's fresh. So obviously the big one was Halo Infinite, and I have a lot to say about this one because I've really highly anticipated it. When they announced this game back in 2018, the trailer suggested that it was going to be quite a departure from Halo 5, and it was going to return to the aesthetic look of Halo 1 and 2 while perhaps turning open world, which if you know the kind of games I like, that's right up my alley as both a Halo fan and just a fan of games that really emphasize freedom. So that sounded awesome to me, not to mention how gorgeous that trailer was. So most of that is true. This is Halo turned open world. It's got a heavy emphasis on sandbox elements and new gameplay elements. It seems like you can do objectives in whatever order you want, at least on some level. And so all that said, it's hard not to be pleased. It looks like a ton of fun, although I do have to say my gut reaction upon seeing it was that I really was not blown away by the graphics, especially compared to the announcement trailer. I mean, if you look at this demo, I don't think it lives up to what they showed us in 2018. It still looks fine, it doesn't look awful, but I don't know that it is quite the sort of visual standard that you would buy a next-gen console for. But again, graphics aren't everything, and I think the gameplay looks great. As a longtime Halo fan, I think it sounds fun as hell to explore that world with this level of freedom where I'm not compelled to do one objective at a particular time. I can kind of take it at my own pace. That sounds great to me. I know there are a lot of people who would rather have a more dense linear experience, but personally I think this is great and I can't wait to get my hands on it. In a lot of ways it kind of reminds me of Breath of the Wild, because when we first saw gameplay of that one, I was similarly kind of underwhelmed by how it looked, and then when I got my hands on it, it was like, oh my god, the gameplay is just so flexible. There are so many ways to approach different things, and when I explored all the different regions and experienced the day-night cycle and everything, I was really over the moon for it, both for its gameplay and its aesthetics. So hopefully Halo Infinite does the same, but at least on the gameplay front, I think it looks great, and I'd say that that's what matters above all else. Another big one to me was Vowed, which I don't think this one's getting as much traction because people just don't know the name, but this is a first-person fantasy RPG being developed by Obsidian. A lot of people are kind of saying in broad strokes this is Obsidian's answer to Elder Scrolls, which, that very well may be. From what I gather, it takes place in the world of Pillars of Eternity, which has a lot of really rich lore and so on. I've kind of joked about how the Switch port of that game is really bad, and it kind of is, but that doesn't mean it's not a really awesome foundation of lore and just fantasy elements to work with. If this is a proper Obsidian RPG, for anyone who doesn't know, those are the guys who made New Vegas and KOTOR 2 and Neverwinter Nights 2 and Outer Worlds, which not as many people were over the moon for Outer Worlds, but I thought it was great. But ultimately, they remain one of the most respected RPG developers of all time, and they're now making what might be their take on the Elder Scrolls formula, again, for broad strokes purposes. And this is the first RPG they're developing as a subsidiary of Xbox. I'm not counting Grounded because I don't think that's an RPG, which I assume means this will be an Xbox exclusive, and I don't think people realize how big of a deal that is to have an Elder Scrolls type game from such a respected developer be an exclusive. That's pretty huge. Definitely a big win for Xbox. I don't think that Avowed will make Elder Scrolls 6 superfluous or anything like that, as some people seem to be saying. I think that's silly because Bethesda and Obsidian have just such different strengths. I mean, they're both wonderful, but in very different ways. But if we can get a proper RPG from Obsidian where presumably you make your own character in a more or less open world format, with all of the role-playing elements that we know and love them for, I don't think people realize how potent that is as an exclusive. But I mean, who knows? We didn't see gameplay, so it could be really underwhelming when we actually see it. It's hard to say. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 looked really cool to me. This is not a series I've ever played, but I've always heard about it as a Fallout fan. A lot of people have told me S.T.A.L.K.E.R it's really similar to Fallout 3, at least the first-person Fallouts. Basically, from what I gather, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is something somewhere between Far Cry and Fallout, because you explore a world openly and you do have dialogue trees, but I don't think you make your own character or have a lot of stats or anything like that. Again, I'm not really sure. I'd have to look into it more. That seems like a good get as well. I think Everwild looks great. The elephant in the room is that it kind of looks like Microsoft wants a Breath of the Wild type game. It's got that same cel-shaded look. The art is beautiful and the creatures look great. The environments look great. The animations look great. But what the hell do you do in this game? I don't know. Is this a combat-centered game? Is this a puzzle-solving game? It kind of seems like a co-op game because they keep showing 4 characters at a time. I feel like I have no idea what you do in this game, but I'm intrigued nonetheless. I guess I'll just have to wait till I see gameplay. But I definitely like the salamander. That's a star of the show right there. And then finally, the long-anticipated Fable reboot has finally been revealed. I mean, it's like the worst kept secret in the industry. I don't remember how they discovered it, but it has been out in the open that Playground Games has been developing this for years now. I want to say I learned about this in like 2016 or 2017, so we've known for quite a while that this is happening, which kind of makes you think, why couldn't they have shown us any gameplay or at least something in engine? You know, they just showed a cinematic teaser. There's very little to go off of. It's definitely good to know that it's happening. Fable is one of Xbox's, most prized IPs. It's honestly surprising that it took this long for Xbox to finally do something with it. The last Fable, Fable 3, came out in 2010. So yeah, it's kind of been dormant for all this time. They tried making that asymmetrical multiplayer game, but I think everyone just hated that. So, and that got canceled many years ago now. So I guess if anything, it's a good sign that they're taking their time with it. It should come out and be really solid. It would have been nice to see something in game, anything, just show us a town or anything like that. What little we have to go off of the teaser, I can see that it seems to be more of a return to Fable 1. Obviously, Fable 2 started introducing certain steampunk things. They had guns and stuff like that. And then Fable 3, I think, had some industrial revolution themes going on. So this looks more like a callback to the first Fable that was more, you might think, conventional fantasy, which I think the fans will be pleased with. I'll have to see it before I'm really hyped about it, but I've been waiting for a long time to see this franchise come back, just as someone who has kind of been waiting for Xbox to really get their exclusive lineup together. It has been a while since I've been able to really praise them for that, but I do think that yesterday was a turning point for them. Between Fable, Vowed, this Warhammer game, which I don't know if that will have RPG elements or not, but at any rate, it does look to me like Xbox is trying to brand themselves as the Western RPG machine again, kind of like they were back in the day with the original Xbox. Obviously, the true Western RPG machine is probably always going to be PC, but as far as consoles go, you look back at the original Xbox and there was Morrowind, KOTOR 1 and 2, and Fable, all these really great Western RPGs that couldn't be played on any other console. I think they're trying to get back to that, and I think that's a great move for them. I think it would have been nice had we seen more gameplay maybe of Fable, if that's as far along as people seem to think. Obviously, it would have been great to see gameplay of Vowed, but they did just release Outer Worlds, less than a year ago, so you can expect to wait for that one, I would think. Between an open world Halo, a Fable reboot, a new RPG from Obsidian, it is hard to not be pleased by the show yesterday. So I think they did pretty well. And from what I understand, PlayStation is going to have another showcase on August 6th or 7th or something like that. And it'll be interesting to see how they stack up. I mean, it's totally possible that they could come out swinging with something huge, although off the top of my head I can't think of anything that would outright belittle Halo Infinite and the Fable reboot, but I know that that's just a matter of taste and anything's possible. I mean, hell, they could be like, hey, we got Elder Scrolls 6 as an exclusive, and that would of course set the world on fire. I don't really want those games to be exclusive to anything because I don't want anyone to miss out on them, but if anyone ever did that, that would be huge and there would be riots. Those are my thoughts at the moment. Still digesting, but that's where I am now. And if there's a PlayStation event in the coming weeks, I may react to that too. Kind of depends on how this one goes and if I'm really in the thick of another video or not. But at any rate, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you next time.